When we picture pirates, we tend to think of a very specific image. A rough, bearded man, one eye patched, shouting "Arr!" while waving a sword and drinking rum. But history? History has receipts. Because some of the most dangerous, most cunning, and most successful pirates to ever sail the seas weren't men at all. They were women. And their stories weren't just forgotten. They were buried. Buried by governments who feared them, by navies who couldn't catch them, and by a world that wasn't ready to admit that pirate legends didn't always wear trousers. This is the story of the forgotten female pirates, and why their names still deserve to be feared, remembered, and whispered when the wind changes. Part 1. Anne, Bonny, and Mary, Red, the partners in crime. Let's start in the early 1700s, the so-called Golden Age of piracy. Anne Bonny was born in Ireland around 1700, the illegitimate daughter of a wealthy lawyer and his maid. From the start, she didn't fit in. She was rebellious, fiery, and famously once beat a man so badly he ended up in a hospital just for insulting her. Eventually, she made her way to the Bahamas, the pirate capital of the world at the time. There, she met John Calico Jack Rackham, a pirate captain known more for fashion than competence. They became lovers. She joined his crew. But there was a problem. Women weren't allowed on pirate ships. They were considered bad luck, a distraction, and, let's be honest, a threat to the fragile egos of men who spent months at sea. So Anne disguised herself as a man. She dressed the part, fought with blades, and gained a reputation as ruthless and fearless. And she wasn't alone. On the same ship, another disguised woman had also joined the crew, Mary Reed. Mary had spent most of her life pretending to be male, first to join the army, then to survive in the world. She was sharp, tough, and completely battle-hardened. When Anne discovered Mary's secret, the two became close, very close. Some accounts say they were lovers. Others say they simply recognized in each other something rare. A fellow woman refusing to follow anyone's rules, especially a man's. Together, Anne and Mary tore through the Caribbean. They fought alongside men, took ships, plundered gold, and in at least one case, held an entire crew at sword point by themselves when the male pirates below deck were too drunk to fight. They weren't mascots. They weren't passengers. They were pirates. But in 1720, their run came to an end. The ship was captured by pirate hunters. Calico Jack and the rest of the crew were sentenced to hang. Anne's final words to him: "If you had fought like a man, you wouldn't be hanged like a dog." She and Mary were sentenced too, but both pleaded the belly, claimed they were pregnant. It worked. Their executions were postponed. Mary died in prison. Anne's fate is uncertain. Some say her father bailed her out. Others say she lived out her life quietly under a new name. But for a brief, bloody moment, Anne Bonny and Mary Reed ruled the sea. Part 2. Ching Shih, the pirate queen of the South China Sea. Now let's talk about someone who didn't just command a ship. She commanded a navy. Her name was Ching Shih. And if you've never heard of her, that's not your fault. Western history has done everything it can to ignore her. But Ching Shih was arguably the most successful pirate in all of history. She started life as a sex worker in Canton. In 1801, she caught the eye of Cheng Wan, a powerful pirate commander. They married, and she didn't just become his wife, she became his partner. When Cheng Wan died suddenly in 1807, most people expected his fleet to dissolve. Instead, Ching Shih took over, and then things got serious. She unified over 400 ships, commanding a fleet of more than 50,000 pirates. To compare, Blackbeard had maybe 300 men. Ching Shih had enough to take on nations. She created a strict code of laws. Loot was distributed fairly, was punishable by death. Disobedience got you publicly executed. Captured women were either freed or married, but never abused. She wasn't just ruling a crew, she was running an empire. The Chinese government sent its navy after her. She beat them. The Portuguese tried. She beat them too. Even the British Royal Navy gave it a go. Same result. Eventually, the Chinese government realized they couldn't defeat her. So they offered her a full pardon and let her keep her treasure. Yay! She retired rich, untouched, undefeated. Ching Shih didn't die in battle. She died at age 69, running a gambling house, laughing at the men who'd failed to stop her. Part 3. Pirates in Disguise, The Hidden Anne Bonny. Read Ching Shih. Those are the names we know. But for every woman who made it into the history books, there were dozens more lost beneath the waves of male-dominated storytelling. Some disguised themselves as men. Others bribed or blackmailed their way onto ships. A few commanded vessels openly, their crews loyal not because of gender, but because of skill. We love pirate stories. We turn them into movies, theme parks, Halloween costumes. But we've also turned them into something safe, familiar, male. The truth? The oceans were wilder than we were told, and the most feared pirates weren't always the ones with beards. They were women who refused to follow the rules, who carved their names into history with cutlasses and cannon fire, and who reminded the world, for a few brief moments, that power doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears a dress and carries a pistol.